Wirth Watching. 56 years and counting.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Wirth Watching. I'm Sarah Murphy here with Craig Wirth. Hello, Craig.
Hello there. How you doing?
I'm doing so well, Craig. Excited to be here. We're talking about the beauty of the place we live in. Yeah.
You got it. And when we say the place we live in, that's Utah.
Don't forget.
We're going to look at some small towns and the history that made them what they were. Maybe not what they are today, but what they were. For example, Moab, we're going to take a look when it was the uranium king.
Oh, how cool.
Of all. We're going to take a look at Morgan. Morgan is where they made pea soup. I bet you didn't know that.
Yum.
And it was incredible pea soup. Park City, when it was kind of like a ghost town.
Wow.
You wouldn't believe it, what happened to it. Oh, and the town of Helper. That's one of my favorite. And we're going to talk to a person who has now left us, but she gave us the whole story of every building in Helper. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to have fun. Where are we going to go first?
We're always going to have fun. I vote Moab. I just was there. It's one of my favorites.
Isn't it a great place? But it wasn't always camping, hiking, and all that. It was uranium, and that's how it started. Let's take a look. Well, with spring just around the corner, we begin thinking about Moab and hiking, biking, four-wheeling. Oh, but there's another story about Moab. Let's look at the history. Moab is a collection of great restaurants, hotels, and tourists in the shadow of some of the world's great scenery. But the Red Rock had a different draw 60 years ago. Prospectors crawled around where tourists now hike. For this was the uranium center of America.
There's uranium values in that thar chunk of ore.
An excited Channel 4, with our call letters KTVT at the time, showed Utah the spectacular news in 1956.
Our KTVT cameras wing southward now to the Four Corners country, which just a few short years ago was nothing but a painter's and tourist's paradise. Things have changed a mite since a gentleman named Charlie Steen spotted some uranium down there.
In something resembling a gold rush, Moab was overrun by fortune seekers. The uranium companies sprang up as fast as a mule could lead a miner to a claim. Moab's mayor, the Reverend Dave Sackerson, remembers Moab as a kid.
It was wild and woolly. I mean, it was a bizarre place. I mean, you think of a western town back in the 1800s or something like that. There was a lot of that going on around here. I mean, it was crazy.
All were looking for the ore and for a dream. The mayor says it was often a rags to riches and back to rags story among prospectors.
The mill has been stockpiling uranium ore for fully a year. As a result of this $8 million installation, has several 100,000 tons of uranium-bearing rock to process.
White Canyon became the place of millionaires, from names such as the Rattlesnake Mine.
I've heard, and I don't know whether this is absolutely true, but there were more millionaires in Moab per capita than any place in any place in the state of Utah. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I know a lot of people, a lot of fortunes were made and lost in this community.
And the poster child of fortunes was Charlie Steen.
One symbol of growth down Moab Way, the home of Charles Steen, which perches atop a sizable cliff overlooking Moab.
He named the home Mi Vida, my life.
I got to swim in his pool, yeah.
His White Canyon mine was the dream, the one in a million Moab story.
He was a very unique man. He came from humble roots. The story was that he lived in a shack in town, and he was looking for the big find, and he struggled.
And like all booms, there was a bust, and Moab returned to being a painter's and tourist's paradise. The memories of the 1950s can be found in the older section of town. Mi Vida still towers over the streets. 50s-era homes stand as icons to those who made it, and they dot the streets of the Mi Vida neighborhood. The Uranium Building stands as a curio among art galleries. The Moab of the 50s, the town for a new atomic age.
unfortunately, I think we're losing a lot of that history, and we're losing a lot of the people that lived during that time. You know, and it needs to be preserved, it needs to be remembered, and it needs to be honored.
It is so interesting. You think of Moab and what it is now, such a popular tourist destination, a beautiful place.
Sure.
But to hear the mayor talk and call it a bizarre place when he was growing up is so interesting.
Well, it was the Wild West.
Yeah.
It was a mining town, and that's all that history is forgotten. And he's right, it should be preserved in some ways. So maybe that's what we're doing tonight.
Oh.
We're also going to look at the history coming up about another place, Morgan.
Okay, guys, it continues after the break. Stay with us. Hey, welcome back to Worth Watching, everybody. Craig, you mentioned the pea soup earlier, and I've been really curious about it ever since.
Well, the pea-growing capital, we talked about the uranium capital.
Yeah.
Now there was a place that was the pea-growing capital, Morgan.
Okay, this is new to me. I'm really fascinated by this.
It wouldn't have been new to you if you'd been around 100 years ago, which I know you probably
This is
weren't.
why I
Neither
watch
was I.
with you, though. This is so good.
Let's take a look. Indeed, it was harvest time, just as it was way back when. And 100 years ago, yes, this film is 100 years old, a lot of that harvest time meant Utah peas, which meant they would end up at the Morgan canning plant. Now that was no small deal. James Anderson turned home canning into a major industry. His late daughter, Ellis Jameson, told me about it 30 years ago.
I could smell the peas when they went down in these big round things, and they go down in the vats to cook. I can still smell those peas.
In 1920, his factory in Morgan County led the state in canning. But then he also built a factory in Smithfield. It set a new standard in vegetable processing. And the Morgan Canning Factory now leads the world. It employed hundreds of Utahns.
And I can see the ladies with their hats on and the belts moving. That was all in one building.
He canned a number of brands, Snowcap, Sure Good, and all were sold as Those Good Peas. The enthusiastic James Anderson led the workers as a cheerleader. It was all about those good peas. And he created one of the first film advertisements 100 years ago. The kiddies know what is good to eat. Oh, but shelling peas by hand, one by one, what a lot of unnecessary work. And let the Morgan Canning Factory do all your canning. And certainly it worked. And so did it make work for lots of Utahns at the factory. And more, selling peas throughout the land. But the dream ended.
The largest, best equipped factory was pretty good in the whole world. He was very proud of it. But he just died too soon. He died in 1926.
And later there would be frozen food.
Until frozen foods came in the 40s. After the Second World War, it was all canned foods.
And as late as the 1990s, the old building still stood where it all started in Morgan. But when we shot that original story, that would be about the last time that we saw those old buildings. Buildings that helped pace a major industry that once thrived in Utah. The Morgan County Historical Society took pictures to document the old factory, to be the last memories as the buildings are now gone. Oh, but those good peas.
That is cool, Craig. Pea canning. I didn't know. This is all new to me.
Well, if you'd been here 100 years ago, it wouldn't have been new to you.
How cool
isn't that something?
The shot of them on the little belt sorting through the peas. What a shot.
Hundreds and hundreds of people worked there. Again, a part of Utah history that I know people didn't know.
No.
And that's what we like to do, to share that. And that's what we do here. Let's continue to share, like Park City, you know, that's all we know is glitz and glamour. Oh, but it always wasn't that.
And we'll be looking into that after the break, everybody. Stay with us.
You got it.
Well, if we're talking about small towns that give and contribute to Utah's history, we've got to talk about a town you know very well, Craig Wirth.
Well, that's Park City, and I actually do remember when Park City was practically a ghost town. I mean, I remember when it had like 2 restaurants and a service station.
Which is so wild to hear.
And I'm young, as you know. I mean, that's hard to believe that. And a gravel road from Kimball Junction to the town. It was 2 lane. Oh, well, you just wouldn't guess.
So different than it is today.
I think so.
Let's see.
It's virtually impossible to believe that this is the same Park City that we see in the glitz of Sundance. It was a ghost of a mining town by the 60s. But one citizen told the world it is not a ghost town. For in 1967, it had 2 grocery stores, a clothing store, a 5 and 10 cent store, and several bars and several gas stations. Well, I suspect there's a few more stores today, and maybe even a few more bars. And Main Street doesn't look the same as it did back then. Yes, back then. The kindly priest at St. Mary's summed up the town.
There was practically nothing left in the town at all. Many of the inhabitants had to go elsewhere, leave the homes that they owned here. In these later days, dark and evil ones, population has dropped to roughly about 1,500 in this community of ours.
Some felt the town had hit a dead end. The mining was about over, and the town needed a little paint. But at the barber shop, there was no gloom.
I don't think the Park City is finished as a thriving community. I believe we have a great future as a community.
And that future was skiing. Yes, a modest resort, a great idea, and a government grant. 20 years ago, Deer Valley icon Bob Wells said the government rescue was the key to go from silver under the ground to snow on top of the ground.
The goal was to replace the lost employment from mining with recreation.
The ski train brought in tourists, and by this 1975 picture, there were more cars on Main Street, but there still could have been a little more paint on the buildings. And the houses needed a little fixing up, as well as the dirt streets. In fact, you could pick up a house in Old Town Park City for the cost of back taxes. Of course, you might want to also invest in a door and some windows. The idea of skiing seemed to be a good one. Park City became a good place for the locals. Although in November of 1970, the Chamber of Commerce recognized skiing was bringing in large numbers of tourists to town and then has little to offer in the way of entertainment other than skiing. The solution was thought to be making the town like an old West frontier mining town, like the sets of Western movies and television westerns. Yes, board sidewalks, overhanging balconies, gas or simulated gas lights, and signs of the proper style. Well, fortunately, nature kind of took its course, and the barber was right. It did have a great future. So it's the story of the rebirth of a town that nearly everyone forgot into the city that the world knows.
It's difficult for me to look at the old video and connect that is the same place that's such a destination today.
And everyone who watches that said, why didn't I invest $700? You know?
What was I thinking?
But I can tell you back then, I didn't have $700 and I don't have $7 million now, so what
just
can you
missed
say?
out.
But it is a great place.
Yeah, and you can tell from that. Wow.
That's what we're doing. We're just taking a look at, you go, wow, I didn't know that about these places. And that was the history that we had in our small towns. You know, I don't know, and I know you can't relate to that because you weren't here. And it just was something to think of that. And you look at that and you go, wow.
And we've got one more coming your way.
We do.
Want you
the
to stick
Town of
around
Helper.
for.
That's one of my favorite by price. And again, a wonderful place. Let's take a look after the break.
We'll be right back.
One of the great things that I think about the people that live there is that we have shown you people who actually are first-person memories of these places. And another one, I'm so proud that I was able to get a great person who lived in Helper, Utah. Now the town is practically gone. I know the people in Helper aren't going to agree with me on that, but a lot of it is gone, and so is the wonderful person that you're going to meet in this story. But the important thing is, these were people, these were towns, and this was all of Utah and its history. Let's take a look at Helper.
Helper Main Street is under construction, so it's not quite the same as it was in the old days. But it's also not the same in the old rail town as it was back in the old days, when the heavy coal trains came out of the canyons and needed extra engines called helpers to help the loads up nearby Spanish Fork Canyon. You can still imagine the history, such as when the Strand was playing a double feature, and when it was nickel admission on Wednesdays, or when Main Street was a place where everyone and his dog gathered to talk to everyone else, and when you went for dinner at the grill. That history exists in a wonderful film of Helper in the 1930s, when just about everyone on Main Street posed for the camera that came through town. It's one of the best recorded examples of small-town America that exists today. We showed the film to Marilyn Weibel Austin. She knows the heyday of Helper. She moved to Helper as a small girl in the 1920s.
Helper Drug Company?
Yes, Mr. McGonigal.
You see, Helper was a place where you could still get a job on the railroad during the Depression, or at the coal mines up the canyon, or the stores in the city.
Everything seemed to be good. I know that we were probably going through the end of the Depression at the time, but life was wonderful in Helper. Everybody was so friendly.
There were immigrants and folks from all over America.
Mr. Reese, they owned the apartments where we lived. And you know, we were a mixed bag of nationalities, personalities, but it was a wonderful time to be growing up there, to be raised there.
And what did kids do? They gathered in the park back in those days. It's just what you did.
Kick the can, run, sheepy, run, hide and seek. We didn't have television. We had a radio, but we just kind of had to make our own fun.
The memories of a small town, the memories of a different era, they all passed before Marilyn as she was watching the old film, such as this, the price of gas for the few who had cars.
Gas, 18 cents. You remember that?
Oh, yes, I do. Can you believe 18 cents? Of course, you pumped your own.
Well, for 18 cents, you probably ought to go out and refine your own.
The small-town candy shop was the sweetest moment of the film visit.
As kids, we used to stand at the window outside and look at the display. Huge display of penny candy in the window. You used to have to decide how you wanted to spend your nickel. And that's about what we had, a nickel.
It has been 75 years since Marilyn Weibel Austin graduated from high school in Carbon County. And that's what made the shot of the Helper Furniture Company extra special.
Helper Furniture?
Oh, yes. And when we graduated from high school, Helper Furniture always gave us a little box. And it was like a cedar chest. I still have mine.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the little box from the little town, a town the rest of us missed.
The quietness, the wonderful friendships, learning about other nationalities, going to school with all these different nationalities, and we were all one.
Indeed, it was all about coal. It was all about trains. And it was all about the good people of Helper.
What a special lady she was, an incredible story.
You know, what have we learned from these small towns? I think today we think, what did they do?
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting, you see all the people were dressed up.
Yes, they were.
The pride of their business. If you were at the meat market, you had that apron.
Yeah.
If you had that uniform on, if you worked at the gas station. And the newspaper reporter in the suit and all these. I don't know. What did you learn from small towns looking at these?
Do you know what? Well, what really stood out to me was that final story. They're getting to hear from her. She was just one representative of what I can only imagine the entire Helper community is like. She cares about the place. She has so much nostalgia, and she's loyal to her home. And that's one thing I feel like we can learn about all of these places here in Utah is we've got some great people in this state.
And we had a great history that we don't see today. I mean, you go to Moab. You only see hiking and camping, and that's good.
Yeah.
You drive past Helper on your way to Moab, go into the town and just look at those old storefronts. They're all gone, most of the stores. Think about that when you go to Park City, what it used to be. And, you know, and look at Morgan and think about canned peas. And remember, the history's changing again. What's it going to be like in 100 years?
Well, isn't that something to think about?
So that's why we wanted to look at these small towns today.
And what a treat, Craig, to be able to show us a little bit of the history that we all weren't around for. Such a privilege, and we so appreciate that. And for the work you do, Craig, it was so fun.
It's a lot of fun. Where else can you meet people and learn about things and work with you? Thank you so much.
Craig, always a pleasure. Thank you. And thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you right back here for the next episode of Wirth Watching.
You got it.